Yes, sir. So anyone of us can test. So do one thing, you speak for some time and we may check there. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, okay. So yes, and students, if you got disconnected and maybe you can see the message that the total limit is full, then you can go to the YouTube live stream. Okay. So that is one thing because we have restriction for 100 people only. And hope someone is checking the YouTube live stream. Okay, and now working fine. Then it's good. Okay, okay. Thank you. So we'll be starting very soon. Mukul, Parth, are you here? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
Like
think we'll be starting soon.
like
Yes.
some people are still joining. I guess like the count is going up. Let's just wait for just 1 or 2
Okay.
minutes. Then we
Okay.
can start.
Okay.
So like if there are any first years here who have joined KGP this year, can you just please put a +1 in the comments if there are any in the chat? Okay. We have a couple of freshers. That's nice. Cool.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Cool. Hi, so I'm Mukanatha. I'm a third year undergraduate and I'm a member of course. So let's get started. Yep. So, firstly, thank you for coming. Right after the semester ended, we all know how this semester has been. So, yeah, thank you for coming. So, let's start with KWoC. Um, so, you can just type +1 in the comments. How many of you have heard of KWoC or participated in KWoC last year?
Like just put heard of KWoC. I think the plus,
Yeah,
like
I guess.
differentiate between the +1s of the previous +1 and yeah. Okay.
Cool. So, KWoC is this annual month-long uh, coding event that we have, which encourages people to start contributing to open source and do their first contributions. And the way KWoC works is mentors put up projects, students register for those projects, work on those projects throughout the winter, and in the end, write a report of what they contributed, what they learned throughout their journey, and send us a blog post, and they're given a certificate. So KWoC has been happening for a couple of years now, and it's a great way to get started with open source. In fact, one of the reasons I got started with open source was KWoC because I took part in KWoC in my first year, and it's that way with a lot of people in cause and outside cause as well. That KWoC helps introduce them to how open source works. So before we get started, do most of you know about open source or what GitHub is? Or what projects are per se? What am I referring to when I say projects?
You guys can feel free to just like unmute and speak up. Like this is not a lecture, right? Like these are all students.
Yeah, the trauma of lectures is still there, but those are it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think so. I heard about KWoC last year. I think so. There was this open source repository of questions of open source. So basically, you guys help us pair with projects, and maybe you guys also like there will be a mentor us and of course to a project. Then we it would be kind of a mini GSOC, I believe. Like we need to submit a proposal or something of that sort to get selected for contributing to a particular project, and then we can proceed with that.
Yeah, so that was basically the idea. But like what we were looking for is like, does anyone have any doubts regarding what open source is or what GitHub is? Like, just feel free. We'll be happy to explain. Just in case there is someone, please do speak.
Yeah, just to make sure that when I say projects or when I say that you'll be paired with mentors, everybody knows what projects we're referring to. And
By the way, there are freshers too. So I think
Yeah,
it's
okay.
better to explain once.
Okay. So there are freshers. Fine. Mukul, can you explain? No.
okay, so let's get started with projects. So when I say project, I mean a certain tool that people build that that they find cool or they find useful or they build for certain utilities. And what a lot of people do is that uh, they put up these projects on this website called GitHub, which is a magical place, and it's where all the magic happens. So GitHub is a repository of projects where you can look at other people who are putting up code on GitHub. You can look at a lot of large projects, including some of the world's largest open source projects on GitHub. So to give you an example, or in fact, let's just come to examples a little later. So just as a basic introduction, GitHub is this place where people put up projects, to projects, and there's a certain process by which you can take part in these projects actively. So coming to how KWoC happens, someone said this well, that the motive for KWoC is that we wanted to get started with contributing to open source. So the first step is selecting projects. So at sometime soon there'll be projects up on the website. You can look at the projects, see what technologies you know, and start working on those projects. Next, we'll talk about the timeline and then evaluations. So there's evaluations here as well. Not 1% as bad as continuous evaluations, but yeah, we have our evaluation process. Let's talk about these one by one. So motive. So when people come to KGP in their first or second years, a lot of them aren't exposed to open source, or even if they are, they've just heard of few terms, but don't really have an opportunity to contribute to real large projects with multiple other people. So we believe that KWoC provides this opportunity where even if you know certain technologies, say you worked with C or C++ or Python, but you want to start contributing to some actual code and build some tool with it, then KWoC is the perfect opportunity to do so. There's also another motive, which is preparation for GSOC. So how many of you have heard of GSOC or want to do GSOC? What do you know of GSOC? One of you could speak up, I guess.
Okay, so everyone wants to participate in GSOC, but no one knows what GSOC is. That's
Excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I know, like, what I know about GSOC is Google, Google organize some, like, take some organizations or choose some organizations and select some projects for them. and the people who are working for the particular organization can take up that project and work for them, and Google will pay them as a. It is not an intern, but something like a sort of contribution for enhancing contribution in the open source.
Right, right. That's basically what GSOC is. It is an open source program where Google invites all these organizations which have projects of their own. Like they have published their software on GitHub or like any other platform, and they ask Google that okay, we have these projects, and there are students who wish to participate and want to contribute to these large projects. Then what Google does is it acts as a mediator between the students and the projects of these organizations. For example, like there's Mozilla, there's I guess there's Debian, all these organizations um, who have their code published as open source projects. So the students come in every year in summer and they contribute to these projects. They write code, they write documentation, they write tests, and make open source contributions. So that is what GSOC is basically about. Yeah, Mukul, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So KWoC is designed very much like GSOC. It's not as elaborate as long as GSOC, and we don't have the proposal phase. So for GSOC, you need to submit a proposal detailing what you want to work on, then you'll get selected and then you work on it. But in KWoC, there's no proposal barrier. You can work on any project you want to without going through the selection process. So a lot of people in KGP who went on to do GSOC went through KWoC first, and we like to think of it as mock GSOC in that way because it helps you prepare for that experience. Also because it's timeline, it's the process is kind of is like a small scale GSOC that way. So yeah, prerequisites. The first thing is a zeal for open source. Let's come to this point a little later, and we'll talk of the rest of the points first. So, passion for learning new things. So, since this is, for a lot of people, this is their first real contribution to open source, one thing is important that you must be willing to learn a lot of new things. So, let's say you have a basic familiarity with Python, and the project you're working on requires a specific Python library, say Python Flask, and it's kind of expected that you'll pick up Flask because you want to work on that project. And once you have some familiarity with Python, picking up Flask or specific frameworks is not very difficult. Most projects revolve around one or more of these frameworks. They're very there are projects that only use the language itself, but a lot of them use these frameworks. So we expect that you'll be passionate about learning a lot of new things, and for learning new things, Google's your best friend. We expect that if you have issues, you'll Google it, you'll read documentation, you'll read other code bases, and then try to understand certain technologies. Secondly is a basic understanding of Git and GitHub. So Git and GitHub are tools that enable projects. So Git is a version control system, and a version control system is a tool that helps you manage files in a project. So like, for example, you have a large project, you version control it, and what that means is that at every once you've built a certain part of it, you take a snapshot of it. So like in your school or for your assignments, you store versions that this is my V1, this is V2, this is my final version which I'm going to submit. So a crude way of thinking of Git would be like version control for code bases. And GitHub is like we discussed. Git and GitHub are different, firstly. And GitHub is a place that hosts the Git projects. So it's a repository of projects, and all these projects are managed using Git. We had a Git workshop recently in which we discussed basic Git workflow, etc. And if some of you are there, that's great. If not, we'll share resources that will help you get started with Git. Coming to the first point, which is zeal for open source, and this is personally which I believe the most important point, because when you're in your winter of your first or second years, you have a lot of things to explore. There's a lot of things you could do, and one of those things is definitely trying out projects in KWoC. And why would you like to do that is because you feel about building tools, and it's fun to think about building cool stuff. A lot of projects in KWoC are about building these small tools, which are not very large code bases or very complex systems, but they're small projects that are very useful in your daily life, maybe in KGP, maybe managing stuff on your laptop, managing, say, your emails and stuff. So these are these very useful projects, and there's a certain satisfaction in building things, which is great, in my personal opinion. So anti-prerequisites, first is department. You don't have to be from any department to contribute in KWoC. There's absolutely no departmental barrier that we expect that, if you'll contribute to KWoC heavily, if you're from CS or some other department. There are people in KWoC who in their first year were in mining and agriculture who contributed to some very good projects during the KWoC period. Secondly is algorithms in CP. So since some of you joined KGP right now, you might have received a lot of funda about doing CP and getting started with coding and data structures and algorithms, etc. Very useful skills. We don't expect that you would know or be aware of all of these to get started with KWoC. There might be certain projects that require specific skills of algorithms. There might be certain projects that require you to know certain things, but in general, we do not expect you to know anything about algorithms if you want to get started with KWoC. So let's come to timeline. Today is 22nd November. 4 days later, on 26th November, we open registration for both students and mentors. On 4th December, projects will be released and registration closes. So in this period, there's not much you can do. Mentors will submit projects, and we'll go through all those projects and then put them up on our website by 4th. 4th is when the coding period starts. Yeah, so coming to how you'll communicate. So since this is an offline event, and this is an offline event every year, it's not a 2020 thing like a lot of other things. The mentor will put up a communication channel, and we expect that you join the communication channel and start interacting with your mentor and other mentees. So for example, there's a project which, let's say, I put in KWoC, and communication channel is Slack. So I don't know if all of you are aware, but there's this very cool communication and productivity tool called Slack. A lot of projects use Slack to communicate. Some of them use the tool called Gitter. All these are fancy names, but you'll get used to them. So every project puts up their own communication channel. So you should join the communication channel, talk to your mentee. Mentor will be there. There'll be other mentees as well who are participating. You start talking to them there, what you know, what you want to contribute to, etc. And all of this starts on 4th December. 18th December is when we have mid-evaluations. So in mid-evaluations, what we want you to do is that we want you to have at least one contribution to the project before 18th of December. The reason is that we don't want you to start with the project and then become inactive. We want you to continuously keep contributing it, and at least pick one project and contribute code to it. So there are certain guidelines for mid-evaluations, which we'll come to a little later. But essentially, they are this, that we want to contribute at least one commit, which is one change to the code base. After the mid-evals as well, we want you to continue contributing. 4th January is when the end evals are. From 18 December to 4th January, we want another one of these commits. And on 4th January, your coding contribution stops. So once you're done contributing, we'll ask you to write a report which details your contributions, your experience, etc. in KWoC, and we'll go through it before we give certificates and stuff. After 4th December, there's also a leaderboard on our website. So the leaderboard is essentially this, that we have a list of people sorted by the number of contributions made. And this is just so that you get encouraged. And we also use it for filtering out people who have 0 contributions by 18th or 4th January, 18th December, 4th January. So the leaderboard will be up starting 4th December, or a couple of days after 4th December, in fact. Let's say 7th December or so. So the leaderboard will be active from 7th December to 4th January. And you can track your progress. You can track what projects people are contributing to, what projects to, etc., where you're located on the leaderboard. So yeah, selecting projects. So firstly, you should select projects of languages that you are familiar with. While we expect that you'll pick up a lot of new things during KWoC, it's kind of hard to get started with a new language itself and contribute to it. So let's say you have some basic familiarity with Python. It's a good idea to continue contributing with Python or with projects that are based in Python instead of getting started with a whole new language. We would love you to do that. We'd highly encourage you doing it, but it might be easier to get started with contributing in a language that you're familiar with. And you might end up making more meaningful contributions to the project. Secondly, choose a project that interests you. And there are a lot of projects in KWoC that seem interesting. So if you see the list, there's over 150 projects, a lot of which may seem interesting to you, that I want to contribute to all of them. But it's important to shortlist projects that you really want to contribute to, and don't pick too many. Let's say the ideal number is around 2. If you want, pick 2 projects that you're going to contribute to, and you keep contributing to it throughout the winter, throughout winter. There's always the possibility of switching in between. If you don't like a project, you can always pick another project, pick up an issue, and get started with it. But jumping around too often leads to confusion, and you won't end up making meaningful contributions. Complete understanding of the project is not required. Which is that there might be projects that have multiple components, and you might get intimidated by seeing a very large code base that there are 10 files or there are 20 files, and you may think that I don't understand all of them, so how do I contribute to this project? So to get started with the project, you don't need to understand all components of the project. You pick up an issue, you talk to your mentor, and you only look at what's relevant to your issue. So there's only one file, let's say, or one function in that file which you need to fix or which you need to improve. So you get started with that one file, and then you can continue maybe to understand other components of the project as and when required. But if you look at the whole project at once, you might be intimidated, and you might not contribute to it because it looks so intimidating, and you might feel that this is something that is too complex for me. So like we talked about evaluations, what matters is the quality and importance of your contribution. We also need some basic quantity, which is one commit. Like I said, you must have one commit in each of those phases. Your end evaluation will be judged by us and your mentor. So your mentor is the one who eventually decides if your contributions were worth it and if you'll make it through KWoC. This sounds difficult, that you need to convince your mentor, but for most projects, the mentors themselves know there are a lot of beginners contributing, and they don't set very hard as such. So even though end evals will be judged by your mentor, if you make somewhat meaningful contributions, including maybe some documentation changes, some code changes, there's virtually 100% chance that you'll make it through KWoC. So all this is mainly focused on students. Let's come to mentors. So if any of you want to contribute or put up a project in KWoC, this is two criteria. One is that you must have at least 2 open issues on your repository. It will be better if you have multiple with proper labels like good first issue or help wanted, or we want you to tag your issues properly so that people can find out issues when they're looking at your code base. And second is that we want you to have a README.md that explains how to set up the project, looking for, and any other details that you want to put out to people who might be interested in contributing. We expect that you create a separate communication channel for each project. So if you're putting up multiple projects, we still want you to create a new Slack workspace or a Gitter workspace. And we wanted to help first-time contributors. And we wanted to understand that there are a lot of beginners who contribute in KWoC. And they might have some difficulties, and we love it if you would navigate them through those difficulties. That might be both technical and related to understanding the project at large. So, yeah, so if you have any doubts till now, you can just put it in the chat. Some FAQs right now, which we've gathered over some time. We'd obviously like you to put your questions as well. We'll answer those in the end as well.
Yes, thank you, Mukul. So, like, we have collected a few questions that students ask us over the past few years, and I'll try to answer some of those questions. Mukul, can you change the slide? So, the first question is, how do I get selected in KWoC? So there is no real selection per se. It is just like there is no selection criteria. Anyone can contribute and participate in KWoC. There is no department restriction, no college restriction. Anyone, literally anyone, can participate in KWoC. Yeah. So next question, please. How do I learn? Yes. Okay. So we have a question in the meet and like the same question. So how do I learn Git and GitHub? So we had a Git and GitHub workshop a few months back. If you attended it, then that is great. You can revise it. But if you didn't, then there's no problem. We'll share the resources with you. I'll actually share it right now. Just give me a minute. Yeah. Yes, so I have put a link in the chat which contains the slides and the material we used for this year's Git and GitHub workshop. Hopefully you will find it pretty helpful. We have tried our best to make it very clear and like make it understandable. So you can learn Git and GitHub from there, and obviously you can just learn it independently by watching YouTube videos and by actually implementing it, installing Git on your computer using GitHub. That would be the best way to learn Git and GitHub, to actually practically try out the tools. So yeah, that is how you could learn Git and GitHub. Yeah, and of course you can message any one of us on Messenger, or like you can also message the page if you like, if you have any doubts. So that is fine. So who is a mentor and how will they help me? So in KWoC, mostly mentors are people who have actually created the project, mostly. So mentors register their projects that will be available for students to contribute. So if I want a project of mine and I want some new contributors to the project, I will register as a mentor, right? I will put up my GitHub repository, which contains all my code, and then like the students can contribute to that repository. How will they help me? So as a student, you are pretty new to the project, right? You don't know much about it. The code will seem very confusing at first. It will look intimidating, and you will face some difficulties in the beginning and even during the project, during the coding. So a mentor will basically help you out with navigating the code base. He will try and like solve your doubts if you have any regarding the project. He will assign you issues which are easy at first, and maybe then you could move on to difficult ones. So yeah, mentor is the basically the first point of contact during KWoC. So if you have any doubts regarding the project, you can reach out to mentors. Yeah, next slide, please. How much time in a day do I need to give for KWoC? So there is literally no restriction about no, there is no lower bound nor an upper bound for the time you need to give to KWoC. It is completely up to you. If you find the project to be interesting and to be like very like you want to work on it more than maybe 3 or 4 hours, that is fantastic. It is totally up to you how much time you need to spend on KWoC. Is this some kind of internship? No, it is not an internship. It is an open source program which aims to introduce you to open source and help you make your first contributions. So there's like no stipend, or you won't be working for a company as such. You will be contributing to an open source project, and you will receive if you successfully clear the end evaluations, you will receive a certificate for it through KWoC. So yeah, it is an open source program. Next slide, please.
And someone mentioned this that it's not an internship, but it'll help you get internships later because you'll have experience contributing to.
Yeah, it will help definitely, because like you will have some knowledge about open source and you will know what to do.
Actual project that you worked on.
Yeah, you can show it on your CV as well. Like a good GitHub profile is quite impressive. Yeah, so will taking part in KWoC increase my chances in joining KWoC? I'm guessing that most of you are second years. We just got some freshers here, but so we won't be selecting any more second years this year. But if you are a fresher and you have successfully cleared, I mean, you have passed KWoC, you have cleared the end evaluations, you have made meaningful contributions, then yeah, definitely like it will be a plus point if you ever come for selections for KWoC. What if I want to participate as a mentor in KWoC? Yeah. So if you have a project that you wish to put up and you want new students to come in and contribute, you can always register as a mentor. And like Mukul mentioned, some criteria that are there for mentors. If you think that your project clears those criteria, you can register your project on 26th. Next slide. So some tricks and tips to help you through your KWoC journey. Communicate with the mentor at every step. Yeah, this is quite important, because just remember that the mentor is there to help you, and if you have any doubts regarding the project or you need any help, please do feel free to approach your mentors. I think all mentors who are wanting new contributors, and so they will be happy to help you. So please be very clear with your mentor. Be in regular touch, and just like feel free to ask them anything. Yeah. Google be mindful of Stack Overflow. Yeah. So when you're programming, when you're contributing to projects, you will obviously face a lot of bugs and you'll face a lot of difficulties. So one thing is that you shouldn't really ping your mentors for very small little things, right? Maybe a syntax problem or like uh, or something that can be easily fixed by Google search. So you should ideally not bother your mentors with such doubts. Only when you have been stuck for quite some time, maybe then you can ask your mentors. And this is not just for like uh, a step for not irritating mentors or something, but it is like genuinely to help understand how building a project works or how programming works. So yeah, Mukul just posted a great web page here, which is like smart questions. So you should always try and ask smart questions. Uh, so that will help you learn better, I feel. So yeah, so Google often and be mindful of Stack Overflow and like use use both these platforms liberally because like they will help you a lot. Yeah. Start small, choose issues wisely. If possible, ask mentors to assign an issue. So, as Mukul mentioned, you don't need to really understand the entire code base to solve a particular issue, right? So, for example, if you are working on the front end part of it, maybe you only need to deal with the HTML files or the JavaScript files, right? Just for an example, you don't need to look at the backend part of it, or you don't need to concern yourself with how the code on the server is running, or something like that, right? If you're planning to fix some bug that is there on the front end, you only need to concern yourself with that part of the code, right? So choose your issues wisely. Play on your strengths at the beginning. So if you know JavaScript or you know HTML and you see an issue that is there related to the front end part, you can choose that. And ideally, you should choose smaller issues first, which are easy to fix, which will like set up like, and put up the momentum that you need to go through the entire month. So you should like start small. Uh, that is advisable. And you can always communicate with your mentor regarding this. So even if the mentor has not put up the issue on the repository, if there is some bug that you have found in the project, then you can always ask the mentor to like create a new issue and assign it to you. So that would also be one way to go about it. And yes, readme.md is meant to be read. So every project will have a readme.md. So if you go on GitHub and check out any repository, you will find there is, if you scroll a little bit to the bottom, you will find a file called readme.md, which is basically a short summary of what the project is. It will tell you about a little bit about the code base, what the project does, how to set it up. So please make sure to read it thoroughly and understand it, and you follow the instructions given in the README to maybe to install the project locally and to run it to test it. So please make sure to read the readme.md thoroughly. And if there are any doubts, of course, you could ask the mentor. Yeah, so that was it, I guess. Okay, good. Is there any?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of this sounds maybe difficult. So I guess one thing you could do is show an example of what contributions within KWoC might look like.
Yeah.
So, I introduced what I contributed in my first year, and one of the reasons we show this is because we don't expect you to build crazy stuff here in KWoC. We don't want you to, contribute to the Linux kernel either. So we want small contributions which are meaningful, and yeah, that's what's important, that you keep contributing to a project. So you must be visible.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I got my first year of experience.
Mukul, in between, maybe you can also explain what is open source, as there is a question in chat
Yeah.
also.
Yeah,
Maybe it's freshers.
we'll get to it at the end. Like once like the main part is done,
Cool.
people who have questions, etc. Yeah.
Cool. So, second thing is might know this that until some time ago there was proxy in campus that you needed to connect to before you could connect to the outside internet. So there's a senior called Shom Marja who had written a script that you set proxy universally on Linux machines. And this was really cool because when you come to campus, proxy is a pain. It's an absolute pain. And using one script, you could set an unset proxy everywhere, which was really interesting. And so KWoC thought that we could contribute to this project. And so, yeah. And there was an issue here to there was no download location. You had to go to the GitHub and then manually download it to install it on your laptop. So the first thing I worked on was adding a simple website that would let you download the script, and I think it's still hosted. I'm not sure.
Sorry to interrupt, Shubham Mishra. There is some issue with YouTube stream. Can you please check?
So yeah, there was this simple web app that just had a download button and would just let you download the script. So this was my first contribution, and if I look at it now, it's very trivial because it's just a simple Flask app with a static file that you can just download. But the reason I made this contribution was because I had to learn Flask for it. I had to set up this HTML page, do some basic styling, upload the static file somewhere so that you could download it, deploy this on Heroku, which is like a platform for a platform to deploy apps. And my first contribution was very small. So I made my first commit to this project on 14th December, and it was just 10 lines of Python code, like HTML, CSS styling stuff. So if you see the process, it was this, that I talked to my mentor on there was a Gitter channel for this. I asked him what I could work on, and yeah, so this was the issue. It was called Create Simple Web App. I put a message on GitHub saying, hi, I would like to work on this issue. We had some discussions on GitHub itself and on Gitter. And once we finalized what we wanted to do, I created a pull request, which is a way of adding code to the project. So I created a pull request. I added some code. It went through review, and in a couple of days it was merged. So this is the way you will contribute code. You will look for an issue. You'll talk to your mentor about it. Once he assigns that issue to you, you'll start working on it. Keep asking him for reviews, him or her. Keep asking them for insights. And once you're ready, create a pull request. And once it's good enough, your mentor will merge it. So once it's merged, you'll have a working version of your code in the original project, which is an amazing feeling to have something you've written, being used somewhere else. And your contributions might seem small, but that feeling itself of having contributed real code is just amazing, at least for me. So yeah, this was an example of how you would contribute code during KWoC for a project. And just to give you an example, I think you'll have the KWoC tag here. We'll add that to this. So yeah, this was the process of contributing to KWoC. Now, you could have somebody talk of their experiences of KWoC. This was my experience, which was really good. I actually started contributing to some other projects after this. I got to know Shivam because of this project, who was the mentor. He's also from KGP. He's a fourth year undergraduate who's an amazing person. And yeah, it was a great introduction to working on tools with some amazing people. So someone else could talk of their KWoC experience. Somebody on the call.
I'll just talk a little bit about my mentoring experience. Like how was it about? So what I had a small project called Pie to Do. Let me just share my. Uh, is the screen visible?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So this was a small project of mine. It is like literally, it doesn't even make much sense, I guess. But it was very small, and it was what I had started in the second semester of my first year. So this is basically a to-do list manager where you could keep a list of your tasks in the database, and you could interact with it through the command line. So this was Py to do. I had built it with Python and MongoDB, and I just put it up as a project in KWoC. So I had a couple of contributors, like 4 contributors that made really good pull requests, and I'll just show you some of the issues and the discussions. Yeah. Yeah. So this was an issue where I was thinking of converting it to a PyPy package. I don't even know what if that is possible in the first place, but I had put it, and we had a really interesting discussion about it. As you can see, this guy called Shubhashish Dixit, he came in and he said that I would like to work on this, and then we had a discussion about how pip package requires all these dependencies and all of that. So yeah, so this was a discussion. It didn't really get solved, but anyways, we had a really fruitful discussion about it, and we also closed up multiple issues. Like these people came in and they fixed these issues. So we added some features, we added options, we fixed some bugs. So yeah, it was really great experience, not just about learning, but also meeting new people. So if you can see, this is a Gitter channel where we, this is the very beginning, this is December 1st, 2019. So we discussed about a couple of things, like what was the project about, and they came in with the doubts. And we worked through those. And yeah, so this is basically how a communication thing works. So yeah, we had fun throughout the month. We wrote code. I had the great experience of reviewing code for the first time, which was great. So yeah, this was basically my KWoC mentoring experience, and it was great. So if any of you would like to register as mentors, is there any projects you have, you can put it up. Yeah. Anyone else would want to share?
If Rahul or Ashutosh are on the call, I guess you could share your first year experiences if you want to.
Okay, it seems they're not there. Okay, then I think we can just take some questions. Okay. So Navin Sani is asking what is open source. Uh, I'm assuming that this is a fair fresher, so there's no problem. You can we'll explain that. So are there any like narrow KWoC related questions first that uh, any of you have? We can just clear that first.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Like while after choosing a project, do we have to provide a timeline like under which we are working and some sort of demo before starting with the project, just like in GSOC?
No. You don't need to do that. In GSOC, that is one of the things you have to include in your proposal. But we don't keep that in KWoC because a lot of people are just getting started. So yeah, you don't need to give any sort of timeline or demo. You can just join, start contributing.
There's no formal timeline thing, but you discuss with your mentor when you want to solve issues,
Yeah.
etc. Yeah, it's just mostly discussions with your mentor. I think someone wanted to see the timeline once again. Not.
We have a question. How are mentors selected? So we discussed that in a slide. Like the repository that you have should have at least 2 open issues, and it should have a README.md which explains like what the project is about. So those are the 2 basic criteria for selecting mentors.
I guess a lot of people want to go through the. Let's just go through the timeline for one.
Oh, okay. Should I share that?
Is my screen visible? I think I shared my screen right now.
Oh yeah, it's visible. Fine.
Okay, so 26th November, which is 4 days from now, is when registration is starting. This is both for students and mentors. So all of this will happen on our website, which we'll put up on our Facebook page really soon. So you can register there, and mentors can put up their projects. We'll have a form on the website starting 26th November. 4th December is when the projects will be released and registrations close. So on 4th, they'll come up on the website as well. So you'll have a list of all projects for this winter on 4th December, and they'll have their communication channel, repository link, mentor details, etc. So you can contact the mentor directly on the communication channel and start discussing with them, see if you're interested, see if there are issues you can solve. And 4th December is when we want to start coding. The first phase is from 4th December to 18th December. The mid-evals will happen on 18th December. Again, the mid-evals are just a small check that you still contribute, haven't slacked off. They aren't an event per se. From 18th December to 4th January, there's another phase of contributions. Again, we want you to have at least 1 commit in this period, just to make sure you're still contributing to the project. 4th January is when coding period ends. The leaderboard will be finalized, and we want you to write blog. We'll use a couple of days to write your experience. Send that to your mentor, and we'll circulate a form with the mentor as well as to how their experience was. And once this is done, we'll give certificates to everybody who was successful. So this is the tentative timeline. I mean, even if it changes, it will just be maybe plus minus 1 or 2 days. But this is roughly what's going to happen.
Yeah, someone was asking, can freshers join it? Absolutely. I mean, you're totally welcome. We'd be very happy if freshers join. Basically, honestly, KWoC was a large part of the participants was freshers, but since this year, like, you guys have just joined, you don't have much of a background. That is a little unfortunate, but like we'll be happy to have freshers.
I guess someone said how much time will you have to provide for it every day. We discussed this. It depends on your project and the issues you're working on. So it might be, say 1 hour or 2 hours a day, or if you're contributing a lot of code, it might be higher than that. But it depends on the specific issues you're working on. So if you
Yeah,
want
and yeah, please go ahead, sorry.
go on.
There's no such limit on the number of people in one project. If there are enough issues, then I think there's room for everyone to contribute to improve the code base. So, there's no limit on the people, number of people who can participate. Yeah. Mukul, you were saying something.
Yeah, so I was saying that the time spent depends purely on your project and how much you want to contribute. But this is again something that you decide on how much you want to pick an issue, work on it, add new features, improve the code base. Like that you make one commit in both phases, so that shouldn't take more than a couple hours. Once you understand the project and know what to do. There was a question on links. We'll put up the links. So yeah, we'll put up the links on our Facebook page and the KWoC website. The KWoC website will be up really soon with for registration. Anand,
And that's it. Yeah.
Go on.
But there seems to be a lot of questions where they're asking about the restrictions on the students, like freshers or different colleges. Like anyone can participate. There is literally no restriction.
I mean, no college, department, year, state. Oh, yeah, no restriction.
I don't think you even need to be in college to participate. You can just, if you're in school, you can participate.
I think if I remember correctly, there were projects put up last year by people who were not in college as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, no restrictions on participation.
Any more KWoC related questions? Is Linux important, or we can use Windows too? I don't know. I mean, you can use both, but ideally you should be using Linux because it is better for programming because of a number of reasons. But that is totally up to you. I don't think it will be the case in KWoC, but some projects are Windows specific and some are Linux specific. So you have to decide according to that. Okay, then you can work in Windows too, right? You can set up your entire coding environment in Windows also. So that's fine. Oh, okay. Lot of terms. Okay. If we don't know any coding language, then could we make this KWoC fruitful? I mean, I guess you could get started if you don't know programming at all. I think it will be a little difficult for you. But if you have the motivation to continue learning while you're contributing, then it would be, and that is actually the best way to learn, in my opinion. Work on something practical while learning the language. You could brush up, you have time, I guess, and fourth maybe, and you can just pick up Python or some basic HTML, JS, and just give it a try. It's not important that you be successful and fruitful. It's important that you learn things through this process. That's the most important thing. So yeah, you can take that call.
Just to add what Parth has told, yes, there are people who have cleared KWoC with a really low previous programming experience. For example, you can take Pankaj Kumar, who is in course as well. His first sem was not even, first semester didn't even have programming, and he didn't know programming from school also. So I think if Pankaj can speak up regarding it, then he cleared KWoC and he's in course as well. So if Pankaj can speak up more on that, maybe from his personal experience. So yeah, it's not at all an issue with purely. Is Pankaj there?
No, I don't think Pankaj is in the call.
Pankaj is not in the call. Okay. Next question is, sir, what?
Just to add a last point to Path's
Yeah.
answer, it was that you can obviously learn while you're contributing. I mean, you can start off with simple contributions and pick up frameworks or pick up specific stuff you need during the phase. Like I showed you my thing. My first submission was 14 December, even though KWoC started on 4th December, or I mean somewhere in the ballpark of 4th December. And because no, I asked the mentor an issue on 20th November, and I took 10 or 12 days figuring out stuff, learning, setting up my environment, etc. So you'll obviously spend time learning throughout work as well. But like Path and others mentioned, that it'd be better if you have some basic familiarity with at least one programming language to get started. It'll just be easier for you to look at projects and understand requirements, etc.
The next question is, sir, what skill languages do I need to know to be able to do well in this? I know basic C++. So first of all, don't call sir to anyone like. Okay, we are students just like you. So what skills and languages you need to know? It will depend on the project, obviously. So if the code base is written in Python, you need to be familiar with Python at least. But if you said that you know basic C++, right, then I don't think it will be very hard for you to pick up Python, because the syntax is much easier and the basic like the basic concepts remain the same, right? Like a for loop in Python will do pretty much the same thing what it will do in C++ if you write the same logic. Like there's no conceptual difference between the two. So like if you said that you're familiar with one language, then that is great. If there is a C++ project, then that obviously you could contribute to that directly. But it shouldn't be very hard for you to pick up a new language, I think. And it will be a great learning experience too, right? It's always great to know a new language. Yeah. To answer your question very exactly, it will depend on the project you are choosing. What skills that language.
Yes.
Is knowledge,
and it is not compulsory to
Yes.
change also. I mean, obviously there will be some project on C++ also. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you know C++, then you can go for a C++ project, right? That will be great. Is knowledge of a language till school level sufficient to participate? I don't know what school level is, but if you have basic knowledge of programming language, then that should do great. You shouldn't have any problem in the learning part as such. You can just do a project in that language. Maybe if you have learned Java or C++, and you find a project that is in Java or C++, you can contribute to that. Or if you feel like learning maybe a new language, for example Python, you could start learning.
So, yeah, Nandik's question was which domains will the project be based on? It's a very diverse set of projects. I remember there was a project on fight, something related to fights as well. There was the project related to mobile apps as well. So it's a very large variety of projects. There's a link shared in the chat. If you last year's projects, you could have a look for an empirical guess of how projects are and how difficult they are. But there's no such domain per se. It's there's a very large variety of projects, and a lot of them are very, very interesting.
Yeah, so any more questions related to KWoC? Okay, I guess that there are no KWoC related questions right now. Shall we answer the previous? There were some like broad, uh, basic questions that were asked. So maybe we can try and answer that. Yeah. So as far as KWoC is concerned, this seminar is concluded. Thank you very much for attending. We hope to see you in KWoC with like a lot of participation. We'd be happy to see a lot of successful people at the end. So yeah, thank you for joining. Okay, so Aditi is asking, could you explain the blog writing part again? Can someone who has done a blog maybe, the KWoC blog? Okay, so no one is there. So basically, in a KWoC blog, you have to write about your experience in KWoC, what code you contributed, what was the project about, and how was your experience. So that counts towards your end evaluations. So that is basically it. So you could do that in like any form, in a Google Doc, or if you have your own website, you could do that there, or on whatever platform you like.
I have my GSOC proposal that was very similar to that. So sharing that will help.
Yeah, sure. Also, Mukul shared our previous year's KWoC blog. You can check that out. Could you tell something about costs? Okay. We'll get to that. So let's. Someone had asked way back, what is open source, right? So let us just start with that. I'm assuming that the person who asked is a fresher and has just got into KGP and doesn't know a lot about it. So that's fine. We'll talk about it. Open source software is basically you run a lot of software on your computers, right? And behind what the software does is a lot of code that is like uh, programmers in companies or elsewhere have written code which which instructs your computer to do certain things. For example, you are attending this in a browser. The browser is software, and there is a lot of code running behind it, which makes the browser work. So that code part where it is written is where the difference lies between open source software and closed source software. Closed source, I guess you could call it. So open source software is where the code behind the software is published openly, and it is freely accessible for anyone to use it, modify it, and just basically have a look at it maybe. For example, if you go on GitHub, GitHub account, or if you don't, you just go to GitHub and look at some repositories there. Wait a minute, let me just share something. Just give me a minute. Can I just present?
Yep, I start presenting.
Yeah, we are answering that. What is GitHub? So just assume that that GitHub is a platform where code is published, right? So Is my screen visible right now? The GitHub repository.
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah, so this is Torvald/Linux. So hopefully, most of you might have heard of Linux. It is an operating system just like Windows or Mac OS. And usually, like the other operating systems are proprietary, right? You have to pay money and buy them. And since you have to pay money, the source code behind them is not visible to you. Like you won't find the source code of Windows anywhere. Like you won't be able to look at it. So, but Linux is an open source operating system. You can just go to this link here. Just post it. So if you go to this link, you will see this repository where there are a lot of files. Right? Let's just go to one file. So the Linux kernel is written in C, right? It is written in the C language, and this is basically one file that it is a part of it. So if you look at it, you can just have a look at the code, right? It is not possible in Mac OS or Windows. So you can see this function, you can see all these variables, this code right here, this for loop, this if statement. So all of this is available for free, and it is available to the public openly. So that is what open source software is all about. It is literally open source. The source code of the software is open. It is free for anyone to view, and more interestingly, to modify. So what I could do right now is create own version of it, right? If I think that maybe I want to make some modification that would suit it to my use case better, I would just create my own version of the Linux kernel. So it would be as simple as right. So forking Torvald/Linux will take a few seconds. Right. So now I have my own version of the Linux kernel, and basically I can do whatever I want without actually like making any change in the main repository. This is like my version of Linux. I can do anything with it. I can change any file. I can change any function. Right. So this is really cool. Like you can take a technology and you can tinker with it and make your own version of it. So yeah, this is what open source is all about. And if you go a step further, you can actually contribute back to the project that you had forked, that you have a version. So for example, it is quite unlikely, but if I find a bug in the Linux kernel, I will fix it and maybe send what you call a pull request, where you ask the original person, the person who is owning this repository, to add your own code to it, right? If I have solved a bug, then I could like ask him to merge that code there. So like you have made an impact on a software that millions of people use. So that is what contributing to open source is about, right? So I feel like this is a very cool thing, being an open source enthusiast. Like you can make an impact on a very large scale, sitting at home, and it is available for free for a lot of people. So yeah, this is what open source is all about. It is also about like the community part. Like you interact with a lot of people, right, all around the world. So that is also a big part. Would anyone else like to add? Mukul, Shom, anyone? Amijit?
So I've like introduced what open source is amazingly, and he talked about the code part of it. But open source extends beyond code. It's a philosophy that software ethically should be free for people to tinker around with, redistribute, to modify, to do whatever they want with it. And it's this idea that it's people who own software, and people should be able to give back to software if they like it. It's not just code. There are you can have images that are protected under licenses that are open source. So you can distribute images without having to go through a very extensive copyright review. There are licenses that allow for that. So yeah, open source is a lot more about. It's not just code. It's a lot of great stuff that allows people to contribute back, allows people to engage, and people to own things. So yeah, let's. This is what I'd like to add. You could share some links if you're interested to read about open source, but briefly, this is the idea of open source.
So someone is asking, what is GitHub? GitHub is just basically a platform where people publish their code. So when I showed you the Linux code, that was on GitHub, right? So that is a place where people publish code and other people can look at it and they can sort of collaborate and write code together. So it is think of it like vaguely you can think of it like a social media, maybe for programmers. So you can interact with other people, look at their code, and make contributions to it. So yeah, so that is GitHub. What is COS? Someone asked. Someone asked that, right? Yeah. So anyone wants to answer what is COS? Mukul, Shivam. Like my throat is parched from talking too much.
Okay, so you talked about open source. I hope all of you got some idea. So COS is basically this. First of all, this is a society in our college, and all of us are enthusiastic about open source, and we try to spread open source in our college. Okay, so we conduct various workshops, and like in offline SEM we used to do many more workshops, but in this SEM we had only GitHub, and we do all kinds of workshop only. Suppose like a GSOC intro seminar is a kind of seminar that we conduct. KWoC is a kind of kind of event we do. So our motive is to spread open source in college. So that is it, COS. Okay, and it is a society ultimately. And I would like to share one GSOC proposal, because sometimes you, especially the freshers or even second years, people think that what is the blog and how it look like, and maybe I can tell you what you have to include in the blog. So is my screen visible? Not yet. So can you see my screen?
No, I don't. I can't at least.
Okay, wait. Let me stop and have the access, I guess. I don't have the access. Anyway, means okay, then let me tell you just that. So in the blog, we want that what you did in this in the whole period. Okay, so what you can do, the main part is that you can just write the number of pull requests, and for in each pull request what are the works that you have done. Okay, that is the main thing we're looking for. So perhaps you have 4 pull requests or 5 pull requests, just name them, and you may yes, and beside them you can write that what are the work that is done in that pull request. And wait, yeah, and beside that you can add some description about the project that you are doing, some intro of you and your mentor, and the description about the project and how you solve that problem, whatever the work was. That is all we are looking for. So that need not be some 10-page long blog, not at all. It may be done in 2-page or 3-page. It will depend according to your work and all. Okay. So yeah, that's it. And I hope I cleared what is cause. Okay. Any other question? Sample blog link. Okay. Yeah, you can see
So
that link.
are there any questions from YouTube, the YouTube live? Someone monitoring that. What are the topics that we must know in C++ for open source
Oh,
software?
no.
Um, like it would depend on the use case, right? There's no like set of things that you should know maybe. You so a lot of these things you will acquire while building things, right? You will acquire them by googling or looking at Stack Overflow or reading blogs. So there's no set of concepts that you need to know, right? It will always depend on the context of the project you're working on. So maybe for an example, let us take maybe image processing. So I don't know much about image processing, but from what I've heard, there are C++ libraries that can do help out in image processing. So if you are working on an image processing project, maybe then you need to know the basics of image processing in the first place. And then if there is some library that a project is using, then you need to know about that library, right? To study upon that library, and you will have to work your way around that. So there is no like a comprehensive set of uh, topics as such. It will always depend on project. Yeah.
Yeah, and adding to that, you can always ask your mentor if it's a C++ project and tell that this is all what you know, and you are intending to learn more and contribute towards. And mentor will surely be happy to guide you toward by providing more resources and other stuff. So yeah.
Yes, and I would like to add one thing. So don't expect that you will know the whole C++ and then start contributing a project. Okay, this is a wrong approach, but which was there in our systematic education system. But here actually, you see the project and see what are the required skill uh, you have to know. You will be able to do some of them, but then learn the other parts. Okay, in fact that is the often we take that part, that doing while learning while doing kind of thing. Okay, that we are we're doing that is a new thing, and we're learning also and doing that also. Okay, so that is the approach you have to take here.
Yeah, that is a good point. I think like a lot of the freshers will be used to the sort of study and then appear for the exam kind of thing. But that is not the case when it comes to open source, at least, because then you have to learn side by side. You can't just say that okay, I've learned all these things, these 5 things I've checked them on, and now I'm ready to contribute to projects. That is not how it usually works. So you will have to learn by yourself, by googling, by reading Stack Overflow answers, or watching YouTube videos, or like reading blogs. So and then it will be very specific to your project. That is how you will learn in a continuous manner. Uh, will projects in KWoC be available only to KWoC participants? No, it is an open source project, right? You can see it. Anyone with the GitHub link can open it and look at the issues. So anyone can participate and and like contribute to the project, even non-KWoC participants. So definitely it is available to everyone. It is not restricted to KWoC participants, the project itself. And it will of course like depend on the mentor. If the mentor chooses that okay, these people are working in KWoC under my project, then like it will be his decision whether or not to maybe encourage people from outside to contribute. It will depend on the mentor, I think. As the code is concerned, like it is open for everyone, right? So anyone can contribute. Will everyone contributing on GitHub get mentors? Yeah. So if a project is there in KWoC, then it definitely has a mentor, right? That's how it got into KWoC in the first place. Like the mentor registered their project in KWoC. So definitely you'll have a mentor in your project. Yeah. Any more doubts? Okay, it seems that there are no more doubts. So yeah. Okay, there we go. Can I register both as a mentor and mentee? Yeah, I mean, you can, of course.
Yes, you can.
Okay, so I guess there are no more questions. We can conclude it here. So yeah, thank you everyone, and we hope to see you in KWoC. Okay, I have a question about partnering. Rachit, can you please correspond via email? That I think that would be better. We can have a more formal discussion. If that's fine with you.
Or if you want to describe by maybe voice, you could do it once the session is ending
Yeah.
or so.
You can do it over.
Yeah, so hey guys, I'm sorry to barge in like this. I hope it's not an inconvenience, right?
No.
Yeah, so like I wanted to know like is KWoC open to collaborations with other Winter of Code programs? Because I'm in the organizing team of another Winter of Code program, and like I saw like I was really fascinated by your projects last year and this year. So I wanted to ask if it's feasible to collaborate.
Um,
I'm not sure what do you mean collaborate firstly.
like we haven't had like such a like collaboration in the past. So if you could, yeah.
Or what can I do is like I'll send you a proposal and a bit of details about our program. Would that be feasible? Like, or if we can wait about like we can have another meet if that's already with you guys.
Yeah, you can email us. I think Mukul put the email ID.
Yes, I got that one.
Yeah, you can just email us and we can discuss it over mail formally.
Surely, I'll email you guys right away.
Okay. Thank you, Raj.
Thank you.
Yes, and please mention means what are the things you want to collaborate. Okay, that's clearly, because simply using the word collaborate, it is not clear to us, right?
Agreed. It has to be